Hello everyone, Jose here, Fish Keeping. On the previous video, I discussed a comment that was made on a previous live stream and a statement made by another YouTuber that safe was harmful to beneficial bacteria. I went over some discussions on those things and my opinions and some proof that I did not believe that that was actually the case. Now in this video, I decided just to go a little bit further, not so much talking about safe, but we often hear of chlorine and chloramine in our water. I'm just conducting a test here just to show what my actual water level of chlorine is. This is New York City water. Sometimes of the year it can be higher. Right now this test is showing that it is at 0.5 to 1 ppm of chlorine parts per million. Now the maximum on this scale is 8. I don't know how far chlorine can go. See the link below on the previous one where I show another test that I did of how quick safe is on eliminating chlorine. On the tablet I have a running timer. This is 1 liter of water in the beaker there. It is a cold water, and I also will know the temperature there and the time that I actually started this countdown. What I'm trying to find out is just kind of curiosity from my end to see how long it takes chlorine to dissipate out of solution, out of water. As you may or may not know, chlorine is a gas. It's one of the fundamental gases. If you look at the chemistry periodic table, you see it listed on the gases. And so is chloramine, is also a gas. The reason why I noted the temperature, which temperature affect how gases remain in solutions and how quickly they can come out based on temperature. This is important in the hobby here. We often talk about it. We can see the physical changes at times in some of our tanks, but certainly, as I said on the previous video, that science helped me explain some things that we actually see, kind of a little laboratory at home with the fish, and so you can see some of these laws in motion here. I just made some notes of myself on this paper towel of timing when I started it, and again the temperature of the water. There are a few gas laws. I don't intend to bore you or go deeply into them, but there's a few gas laws, in particular Charles law. It has to do with gas volume relative to pressure. Like for example, your car tires, when it's colder, the pressure, you can see that the tire may look a little bit flatter. You run the car for a while, the tire no longer looks as flat. I'm talking about just normal without being a leak there. So gases expand when it's warmer and decrease therefore. There is Boyle's law, which has to do with volume and pressure. There's a number of other gas laws also, but I think more applicable to us is Henry's law, which has to do how gases are influenced by pressure and also by temperature, the solubility. For example, you take a can of soda, when you open you get that loud fizz. That is actually CO2, which we use for plants' health and photosynthesis. You hear the psst as you release the pressure, gas escape. You also notice that if you take warm soda and you put it into a bunch of ice, you can see how quickly bubbles come out also. This is all the gas laws in motion here. I only have 1 liter of water in this 46-degree temperature. Obviously that beaker is going to come more to room temperature, which is about 74 degrees or so, or 77. The volume of liquid that is there, whether you have hundreds of gallons of water that you're quote unquote aging. The idea of aging is one of the things that aging does. It's to dissipate chlorine, chloramine, and also CO2 that is dissolved in the water. CO2 can drop your pH. CO2 and water make carbonic acid, so the pH can drop. The other thing also is that there's a lot of variables here, which I'm certainly not applying this little simple experiment to myself. If you have a large body of water, if the temperature is warmer, if the water is agitated, like if you oxygenate the water, some of these things will affect how quickly chlorine dissipates out of solution, which is a gas. For example, also another thing is for divers, the bends. If you ascend too quickly, the nitrogen bubbles, which is one of the pressure laws, will quickly help the nitrogen come out of solution and cause bubbles, which can cause problems, the bends, and can cause serious health hazards. The gas laws are very applicable to the aquarium hobby, whether we think about it or not, but you certainly see it in action. If the water temperature in your tanks is very warm, you will see the fish gasping for air at the top, so increase oxygenation or just increase aeration of the tank. As many of you know, the surface agitation caused by the air bubbles is actually where oxygen exchange occurs on the surface of the water. Chloramine, we often hear and speak of in the hobby. Chloramine is added to the water, as is chlorine also, to improve safety of our drinking water. Chloramine is a byproduct. If at home you happen to make cleaning solution with bleach or like ammonia and chlorine, that toxic gas that produces actually chloramine gas. A couple of times, my wife some while back, I think she did it, and my mom also did at some point. If bleach is good for household cleaner, hey, why not mix ammonia, throw it in there too, and it'll make a better product. It does cause a toxic gas that is very difficult to breathe around. I've walked in a couple of times and it was like, well, open the windows. Don't ever do that again. You cannot mix chlorine with ammonia because of this toxic gas. Chloramine is also a byproduct of interaction with chlorine in the swimming pool with chlorine and organic matter like in urine or sweat. Chlorine smell that you get in in-ground pools, that stale smell is also chloramine gas. Chlorine and chloramine is one of the things that aging water aeration can help. Now, do I age my water? No, I have no plans for it, never have. If I can use a dechlorinator such as Safe, which is what I choose to use, again, I am not endorsed by seachem or anybody else. Instead of aging water, I don't have the space, I don't have the massive volumes that I would need for the amount of water changes that I do. It is very cost effective to use a tiny amount of Safe. I will show a test following to show you how quickly Safe dechlorinates the water. It makes it non-existent in seconds, literally, for a very small amount, a relatively small price to do that. So if you're one of those people who do believing that it is a better method, it may be better for you, but again, you can certainly get to it, less work, and a lot quicker. My opinion, you do what works for you in your hobby. There's a lot of myth in the aquarium hobby. I have changed many times 100% in the discus tank, which people say discus are very sensitive. As I've said in other videos before, I drain 80%, and then while still draining, start filling at the other end, drop some Safe in there so that whatever new water is coming in gets dechlorinated, and I continue the process if I want to move the full volume of the water without any ill effects. The following portion of the video was from a previous just-on test that I did, testing the chlorine and the action of Safe. If you don't have chlorinated water in your system, in your area, or you use well water or something else, then this whole discussion about dechlorination or something is a moot issue. This is just for those of us who do have chlorine in the water. Now, some of you say that you've never dechlorinate, and even though there's chlorine and you have no ill effect, again, chances are that you don't, but I just don't take the chance. I know there's presence in my water. There's chlorine there. I could smell it parts of the year, and sometimes it is higher. So there's no point taking a chance, especially with some of the discus here. They are expensive, and any problem, any stress, additional stress just leads to other disease. So I'd rather take the precaution. Right now, the TDS reading was at 34. This is just a plain tap water. On the far end, you have one beaker with 1 liter of water, nothing added to it yet. I went ahead and added 1 pipette of straight bleach to the liter of water, stirred it, and then checked chlorine levels on both. This is the amount that I added. Not a lot, but I just was curious just to see what the change in TDS was from the plain tap water and the one with that little bit of bleach added to a liter of water. The resulting TDS in the dilute bleach water was 173. It turned red. Per the World Health Organization, the certain amount of high TDS they consider safe for drinking. So I just proceeded just to test the regular tap water. This chlorine kit just need to drop and just observe for the color change. And from what you see here, there's an immediate change in color to the yellow here, and compare to the tap water, you can see the next to each other, you can see the difference in the color. So based on this gauge, it's between 1 to 2 ppm. Okay, and that's typical for the water in my area. It sometimes a little bit higher depending on the season. I put Safe in a little bit of a cup here, just easier handling than handling the big jug, and I just add for the thing. This is 1/64 of its teaspoon, is really a small amount, so I use a little bit of that. I'm just putting some data here to get an idea what a 1/64 of a teaspoon is. This less than half of that little 1/64. It's just a little bit. So I put it in there. I did not, once I put it in, I did not time lapse anything, so you can see in real time how long it takes to clear in to make there. It takes literally seconds to make it clear back to water. So the presence of chlorine is non-existent after you add safe. Is it an effective product? I certainly believe. So now I just took the dilute solution of bleach. Again, I just put in the 2 drops required for the test, and you can see the immediate color change. This reading is the highest on the scale, which is 8 ppm. Certainly we're never going to have that amount in drinking water. Is it going to kill you? I don't know, but certainly we don't try not to drink concentrated chlorine water. How much does pool have? Or if you measure ppm, I don't know, never done that, but I'll be curious to take some pool water at some point where you actually smell the chlorine. So now, since I didn't know how much is going to take, the same amount that I use for the tap water, there was a little bit of a color change, so then I added a full 1/64 of a teaspoon to it. Again, I am not cutting time back, I am not time lapsing on it, so you could see how much of a change it is. I just added the 1/64. There was some change in the color with the tiny amount from the 1/64 teaspoon. So this is a full 1/64 of a teaspoon. Again, some seconds there. This is a higher amount, so it takes a few more seconds to clear it. But after maybe about 30 seconds of stirring, it went clear. There, see, there is totally clear. Safe is very fast. So as you adding water to your tank, immediately, if you add safe as I'm adding water directly into it, because it gets dissolved very quickly in the stream of water. Some people like to dissolve it and add it to the tank, whatever makes you happy. The rest of the test, I want to see how much time it takes for this small amount of water, 1 liter, test negative for chlorine. Whether, again, if you have the time, if you have the space and you want to age your water, that is fine. That certainly is nothing wrong with that. But many of us rather use a dechlorinator for that purpose. If you look at the timer on the tablet, it's 22 hours, 41 minutes, 54 seconds right there. This is the time lapse since I put the water, which is last evening from this recording. Now I'm just testing for chlorine again, and as you know, this chlorine test is pretty much immediate change of color. And as you can see on this side here, I do not show any presence of chlorine, at least no testable presence of chlorine based on the color, same clear water color. That was 22 hours later. Now, did this happen at 12 hours or 5 hours? I don't know, because I wasn't watching it. I came from work and the first thing I did was test it. So it's just pure colorless water at this point. No testable chlorine. So what I just did is I just rinsed the thing in this water here, and I just went and rinsed it again in tap water. And I took, in addition, I just cut away part of the recording there, and I just got some tap water just to test to make sure that the previous one was not an error from the test kit or something, that I was still testing for the same thing. So again, I got the same reading that I got at the beginning of the test the day before, which is about 1/2 to 1 ppm based on the scale here, which basically is showing something that most of us already know, that most of us have heard, that just aging water, letting it sit for a while, chlorine will come out of solution, as I stated in some of the gas laws. Now, this is only 1 liter of water. How much would it take, say, let's say 500 gallons of water, or whatever your storage container may be? The basic thing here is that it does work by aging water. Again, as I said before, my choice is not to age water when I can use a little bit of a dechlorinator of my choice, which happens to be safe. If you're one of those people who do not care about your chlorine because you've never had an issue, again, that's fine too. Again, it's your hobby, and whatever works for you may be fine, and it may work for somebody else or not, but I just don't take the chances. Keep in mind also, if you inject CO2, as I do on my display tanks, which is 4 of them, as I said before, surface agitation by using air. As you can see, my tanks here, all my tanks are well aerated. I keep overstocked tanks, so I want to make sure that I have adequate oxygenation from this guy. Not only does it provide oxygenation with the surface agitation, so I have spray bars that I point at the surface, so I got plenty of water circulating, I have water movements, it distributes food around, and it does everything wonderful that air can do in your water. But keep in mind that if you inject CO2, there is a possibility that you can dissipate CO2 a little faster. I heard this comment before, and I said I really have not seen, although I aerate heavily, I have never seen a change with my CO2. It takes a few hours before CO2, once the injection starts, to actually reach a balance. I use a CO2 checker. Some people check CO2 by ppm. I don't go that far, or that, I'm not that anal about the CO2 level. If the CO2 checker, I try to keep it at about neutral 7. Yeah, I get the correct color on the CO2 checker, so I'm happy with that. As long as I'm getting good plant growth, the fish look good, and I don't have any issues with a tank that I think that possibly can be related to excessive CO2 poison. So this was just a test for my curiosity. It doesn't prove anything. It's something that we already know that happens, but sometimes I like to see certain things that are testable with my own eyes, because sometimes we say stuff, we hear stuff, and we just like to parrot information, but sometimes it's just good to show actual testing, quantitative testing. If you did not see the other videos before on the effect of whether safe affects beneficial bacteria or not, I encourage you to take a look at it. I think it was an interesting subject to discuss. Thank you so much for watching.